Hey, we are here at PAX '09, and we're within the bowels of the Left 4 Dead 2 booth here. I'm joined by Chet from Valve. Chet, how you doing, sir?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I am well, and I have a few questions for you, sir, about this Left 4 Dead 2.
Okay.
Are you ready for them?
Yes.
Excellent. So this seems like a pretty atypical development for Valve. Valve is pretty well known for its iterative development cycles. It takes its time. Like even the first Left 4 Dead, to the general public, we saw several iterations on what the characters looked like, and they changed pretty dramatically. But here we are, basically a year after the release of the first Left 4 Dead, and we have a whole new game and a whole new cast of characters. What motivated this development process?
Really, it's the whole team after Left 4 Dead 1. We kind of looked at what we wanted to do. We wanted to still keep updating Left 4 Dead 1, which we've continued to do. We've got DLC coming out this September, Crash Course. We also wanted to do some bigger changes that didn't lend themselves to like DLC. For example, the Jockey's this really cool new special. You can play them in versus in the new game mode we're working on, or you can fight them in co-op. But he alone wouldn't have worked. He needs to have the new director for him to work right. He needs to have the spitter to work with. Like, they're a really good combination together. And it's kind of adding all these things together is what we wanted to do. It's like the director wouldn't work on its own. It needed a new special. The new specials wouldn't work without the director, without the new maps. We wanted to be able to tell a different part of the story. Well, that meant new characters. That meant a new world. There's all these kind of interdependent things coming together to form Left 4 Dead 2. And during the development process, it's one of those things. People often don't see the mistakes, right? So, in the games we've worked on, we do the iterative process, and we try things, and sometimes things don't work, and we go back to the drawing board, and we keep going on. For Left 4 Dead 2, we all kind of had this shared vision of what we wanted to do, and gave it a shot, and we actually reevaluated multiple times before we decided to announce an E3. We bring in the whole company. We bring in what we call the Overwatch. We have people outside the project, so it's just not blinded by working on the project, right? Who evaluate the product and say, hey, yeah, is this worth doing? Should we keep doing this? Are you guys on the right track? Are you guys going to hit the schedule? Is this going to be good? Is this going to be, And it's brutally honest. And, we keep going and we keep checking and making sure that it could happen. And so you're seeing the success of the iterative process. You're seeing the iterative process where we nailed time and time again what we needed to nail, and so we're able to hit it on time.
So there was, it almost instills a sense of confidence, or it reveals a sense of confidence within Valve that, no, we like what we're doing, we are confident in this stuff, we're going in the right direction, we don't need to spend the time, even though you arguably had the luxury, if you so desired, to spend the extra time on it.
Well, so normally we'll start with a smaller team further out, so a team might just start with 30 people or 25 people to start working on a game. We started right away with like 50, 60 people. So we already had a lot of people working, and we had a lot of people who knew how to make Left 4 Dead content, or knew what they wanted to make in Left 4 Dead content, because they had worked on either Left 4 Dead 1, or in the case of we have a guy named Dave Sawyer who's worked on Half-Life. He's worked on Half-Life 2. He's worked on so many great games, right? And he was playtesting Left 4 Dead while working on another project. He saw Left 4 Dead. He got excited about things he could do in that world. This is a little bit different of a game for us. It's more procedural, more things happening on the fly. He wanted to try some things in that world. And he joined the team then afterwards. And, again, it's a shared vision of he had the same thoughts we had about what we wanted to do, where we wanted to take it, and where we wanted to add to it. So, yeah, in the sense of us knowing what we wanted to do and going through and having outside playtesters come in and validate those, let us go on.
So, full change of characters, change of venue, that's pretty dramatic. What was the decision process like getting to the Deep South?
Oh, so, the first thing is everything's on the board, right? Throw in every city around the world to go to take a look at. I'd been in Moscow last year, and I'm like, wow, Moscow would be an amazingly cool city, which, in fact, some Moscow modder, come on, make Moscow. We didn't do it. Make it for us. And so, we just threw out everything out there, and the swamps kept coming back. People were into the swamps. I lived in New Orleans for a little bit and loved it. And when we lived there, we had a canoe. And we would go actually to the bayou, but a little south of the city. And it's like, that's close to there. We can tie these two together. Let's talk about what the infection would look like then, because the infection starts in Philadelphia, where the first game starts. And how does it spread? We looked at how infections spread, how do this kind of thing spread. Obviously, zombie infection hasn't happened yet, so we got to make some guesses. But someplace like Savannah would be downwind of it. It would be a little further out. So we start in Savannah before the infection. So that's a good starting point. New Orleans was a logical place for it to come down where they had to evacuate from. And so we kind of just put all these pieces together, and it just really fit the Deep South. And, why don't more people go down Deep South? And, it's funny, when we first announced it, people are like kind of being negative on the Deep South, I think, or worried about Ellis being some crazy guy. It's like, dude, I know a bunch of people down there that Ellis is based on who are just these fun, great guys. And you'd find anywhere, right? And they're really smart, they're really fun, and you just have a little bit of Southern accent, and you want to dismiss them, but they're great guys, they're fart, and they're smart as anyone else, right? It's just this weird thing. I love the South, so, we just wanted to embrace that, and a bunch of people on the team are from the South, and it's just a great location. Why more games don't go down, I guess, is the bigger question.
So we've got, with this whole new cast of characters, it seems like a pretty distinct feel from the original cast, which there's a whole lot of affection for out there. What is it that you, like, without there being a real obvious kind of parallel between the two casts, what is it that you really look for in your characters for a Left 4 Dead game?
Well, first we wanted to avoid just having the character that likes everything, because Francis hated everything, right? That's like the really kind of easy, silly thing to do. We wanted to find characters that interest us. Probably the longest part of the design process was coming up with the characters. And it's the artists and the writers all work together, the modelers, the animators, everybody weighs in. We go back and forth. We see not only who works together alone, but who works together. So we would have lineups of casts of characters. We tried the idea of what if a sheriff deputy was with you? What if a fireman was with you? Well, having an authority figure in your group's a little different than having everyone being on equal footing. So then what if we had a guy that maybe not everyone trusted as much in the con man, Nick? The Ellis character was an early one that everyone loved, of just, the fun-loving guy who's just enthusiastic. Then we have a coach, and I just love that kind of guy down there, right? Who's just real matter-of-fact, like, yeah, the world's going to hell, the zombie apocalypse is going, but what the hell? We can't stop, we got to keep going. And we need to represent the heavier guys in games, right? So we have the coach, we actually was the first a little bit bigger, now he's slimmed down a little bit, but he still should have ran more with his kids. And then Rochelle's the northerner, comes down, and she's kind of got, I think, what we think the gamers would have of if you're not from the South. And she mixes in with the guys and ends up, her and Alice definitely hit it off, and she has some fun down there. And it's really who works together right, what's interesting, who's an interesting character, what can they bring to the game, making sure people would want to play them, want to be them, because you're going to be them. You're going to be in that world with them. There's only 4 characters. You're going to live with them for a while. So they all have to be able to, hang together, and everyone, wants to have fun with them.
So you're talking a lot about kind of explicit mythology here about where the infection starts and how it spreads and the relationships between these people in a way that I suspect, if it's anything like the first game, isn't going to necessarily be laid out so plainly in Left 4 Dead 2. What is the process like in kind of tucking these little bits of storytelling into the game without just having characters come out and talk to you, or have some contrivance like a radio broadcast come out that tells you all this stuff?
First they all start with name tags, so they all know each other's names. They're at a convention together. No, it's just one of the challenges of doing it, and one of the reasons why we wanted to start in a different location and tell a different story was we wanted the world to change. So in Left 4 Dead 1, you're kind of at a stable situation where people are dug in against the infection and they're reacting to it. We wanted to start where the evacuation was just happening and the infection hadn't hit. And that lets the characters talk about the world in a different way. That lets them learn about the world in a different way. When we meet Zoe and Bill, they've been fighting smokers for a week already. When we meet Rochelle down here, she hasn't been. She's going to talk about them in a different way, and that's like the little subtleties that kind of come out. And yeah, we don't stop you with big cut scenes and any of that. And and again, it's Left 4 Dead. So your friend buys the game and wants to jump into the parish and start playing, we let you. You want to start, you want to start at the end, that's fine. But for the people who want to have that story experience and want to have that longer narrative, you can start in the beginning, and every campaign ends with them escaping in a vehicle, and you start the next one finding out what happened in between a little.
All right, so I've got a few maybe less serious questions here. Chicago Ted, how's he doing?
We may find out a little bit about Chicago Ted, and maybe not. We'll see. We'll see. Can't give that one away.
That you know what? You just sold yourself a copy of Left 4 Dead 2 with that. Even just a little hint at it. Secondly, one of the levels in the game, one of the scenarios, is called Dark Carnival. Was that a explicit reference to the Insane Clown Posse? Was that intentional?
No, actually, it's a work of fiction. Before that, I read books.
Okay,
you should try it maybe sometime. No, no. It's just we were going through names, and that kept coming back as one we really enjoyed. So,
I mean, obviously it's a good name. It just kind of carries some odd connotations. I guess lastly, how many? Let's go ballpark here. How many hours were spent deciding on Left 4 Dead 2 as the title?
I hate naming things. I want to point out to everyone in the world there, when you're hiring a writer, they write. They don't name things. Naming is a different job.
Yeah.
So when you force us to name things, it's brutally hard and painful. We had a lot of go around. Every campaign is a horrendous, epic struggle to name and come up with a tagline.
I know that talking to friends at Harmonix, that coming up with the Beatles rock band took a lot more time than anyone would care to admit. So
yeah, well, because what it is always, we go into meetings, we toss things around, and you're like, I have the feeling someone's going to go home and come up with the perfect name, and so y'all go home, come back. Did you? No, all right, let's go home again. You know, and it's just like when you hear it and you know it, like the tagline for Dark Carnival, you must be this tall to die, yeah. Right? It's like, oh, that's obvious, that's it. But you know, getting there is not so obvious. So we always try to let it kind of stew until the obvious thing comes out.
Excellent. Well, Chet, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Game's looking excellent, and looking forward to play it real soon.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.